This is the world according to Jen and Carolyn.
All right, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic. Everyone's got a story. Everyone's been through it. Breaking up.
It's so hard to do.
Yeah, there are many songs about it, right? Breaking up. We've all been there. And most of us would concur that breaking up sucks, especially if you're on the receiving end, which I have been numerous times. Either you're eating your feelings or you're like me, you can't eat it all and you're living off Ensure. Sleepless nights, watching sad ass movies and sobbing while singing along to On Bended Knee by Boyz II Men. Fuck you, Ben, 8th grade.
That's why I love when Alanis came out, because you could be angry about
Oh, it's cathartic.
That was good.
Just listening to Uninvited and crying. Teaching myself how to like pluck it out on my keyboard. How emo is that? You're not allowed. Don't get me started. So we're going to be looking at breakups, not only from the personal perspective, but as always, from the psychological perspective. So, this is... First, I want to talk about how we decided to do this.
Oh, my God.
And how it went horribly.
So it could have gone really well.
Yeah. It went sideways. This crowd was interesting.
Yeah.
So if you follow us on TikTok, we put a video where we were standing in Steiner's, which is a local bar on the square in Sonoma. Because I'm old and married, I've never been at Steiner's past like 9 o'clock. Well, that's when it basically turns into a club. But even prior to that, it was a really interesting experience. So we wanted to ask people questions. We're going to go over those questions in a bit and tell you what they are. But we wanted to ask them questions about breakups. First of all, no one wanted to be interviewed, even anonymously. All we wanted was audio. We didn't want to video anyone. We didn't even give a fuck about their names. And
I don't think anyone believed even what we were doing.
Yeah. It was
like, are you scamming us? This is weird. It was like, you're talking to me about non-sexual things? How strange. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, they seemed very confused and very distrustful. But then they talked to us. Yeah. So they all wanted to talk, but they didn't want to be recorded. And I wanted to be like, dude, you're of no use to me. But now I'm sympathetic because you're sitting here crying, telling me about your parents beating you and how you couldn't cry and express emotions as a child. Yeah. That happened.
It got crazy, like, serious, fast.
People talking about considering dying by suicide. Yes. Like, I don't know. I think, honestly, people, when they find out Carolyn is a therapist, when they find out you're a therapist, they're like...
The Pandora's box opens.
Yes. Yeah. They're like, oh, cool, free therapy.
Yeah.
Like, no, bitch.
Well, and I think at first people thought we were hitting on them. I think people thought it was a line.
Yeah.
Which, coincidentally, a friend of mine used to pretend as a line. When we'd be out and when we were single, we would go around the bar and say we were research students with Stanford.
I'd
be like, we're conducting a survey about relationships. Like, tell us about your relationship. Yeah. And then because that was our way of like finding out, like, were they single, were they not?
That's actually really smart.
We thought we were brilliant. And then they talked to us and we'd be like, sorry, that was just a line. We're just like two girls. La la la. So I don't know.
You should have kept it up. It's great. So yeah, that happened. And, there was a lot of people that were talking about their parent trauma. One dude asked me for cocaine, which immediately turned me into mom mode because that's when I get to tell them about how everything's laced with fentanyl.
Yeah, don't ask strangers for cocaine in a bar.
I know somebody who flatlined, thought she was doing coke. Surprise, it was Fenty. So, there was some dickhead in sunglasses.
God.
There were 3 of them, and they were such dicks that I just ended up being really, really condescending. I'm like, oh, is the future so bright? You got to wear shades, bro. Cool. Have a good night.
Definitely made me happy to not be single anymore. I will say that.
Right? They're like rocking out to Matchbox 20. Like they're Ken. So if you've seen the new Barbie movie, which is brilliant. And then this is the icing on the shit cake.
Tell this story. It's amazing.
Things got a little wild, as I mentioned, turned into a real clubby atmosphere. They turned on the lights, they pump up the music, and a wedding party came in. I'm standing there, around the perimeter of what became the impromptu dance floor. And I'm talking to this guy, and he's a dad, I'm a mom. We're talking about our kids, life. I'm not hitting on him. If I'm standing close, it's because I'm deaf and there's music pumping into my ears.
You're a woman and you're talking to a boy.
Right? And so his wife, who was significantly taller than I was, probably like 6 foot, came up, and it was like that scene in Old School where Will Ferrell has a dart in his neck, and he's like, he pushes that little boy aside, he's like, whoa, by the head. This bitch came up, my back was, I couldn't see what was going on. I came up, pushed me. It kind of knocked me, didn't knock me off my feet, but knocked me off balance a bit. And then plants like a violent kiss on her husband.
She mapped up on it.
Yeah, it was pretty much like a dog pissing on a fire hydrant. And I just, then she walked away and I looked at her husband. I was like, your wife clearly has issues with me. I'm going to peace out. It was lovely talking to you. I was like, Carolyn, we got to go, man.
Then we went home.
Then we went home and smoked a joint. So yeah, Steiner's was a total bust. So we decided to ask these 3 questions, which we're about to get to, of our friends and coworkers. So we interviewed 3 people, 2 women and 1 man, two cis straight women and 1 gay man. So we've got kind of a diversity of opinions here. So, Carolyn, I feel like we can't start this episode without at first talking about our worst breakups. So you go first.
Well, we've definitely talked about many of my relationships, but this was we were just talking prior to recording that, my first, I would say the biggest shocker of this was that I've only ever been broken up with. I've never broken up with someone else. But my first boyfriend, I would say, was the worst one. And I say that because I had no idea how to do it. I was 15. I was devastated. Aww. I thought my entire life, I thought my entire sense of self, who was I going to go to prom with now?
Oh, yeah. My life is over.
It was. And I really had I think my first breakup was so devastating because I had nothing to go off of.
Yeah.
And it was just such something I wanted so bad to be a girlfriend. I really liked this guy.
Yeah.
It was young, stupid
I'm
love.
going to marry him.
I probably thought
You'd
that.
write your first name and his last name on your textbooks.
Oh, 100%. And, so it was just I think it set the stage for many years of future codependency.
Okay.
But I would say the rest were kind of like just mini traumas. Ghostings, not really, I don't think they were ever defined relationships in the first place. So I'd find out they had a girlfriend or they were married.
Yeah, that still hurts.
Still devastating.
Right.
But I really think the first one is the hardest because you have nothing to go off.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you know what? I was going to talk about when I broke up with somebody in a real dickhead move, but because I think he might listen, my first boyfriend, Dave, who you've met, he's a wonderful guy. Sweet. He's a mensch. I'm so glad that we've reconnected. His fiance is wonderful. Anyway, that was my first breakup. And I think Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I initially broke up with him and then I was like, I want him back.
Yeah.
And I wasn't particularly nice to him. He had this poncho he would wear and I would be like, that poncho's terrible. Now I have a poncho like that. Dave, you were a real trendsetter. I want you to know this.
That's cute.
But I was so bummed out. I was like, let me go sit at the cemetery and cry. Let me be as emo as possible.
Because you have nothing to,
Yeah.
It's so, that idea that, I think too, it goes beyond just a friendship. Those are some of your first romantic experiences, and it's all new and it's so wonderful. So.
All I had was Tori Amos, so I don't want to be a cornflake girl. So anyway, Dave, if you're listening, that was for you. See you soon.
And yet you make fun of me and my Tori Amos babs.
I love me some Tori Amos.
Okay, maybe it's someone else.
No, I make fun of you.
Oh, okay.
I keep a foot in both worlds. All right. So now we've alluded to these questions. We are going to tell you what these questions are. The first question that we asked of the 3 people that I mentioned was, briefly tell me about your worst breakup. So we're going to start with my girl, Adrian. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So, my first really bad breakup, notice how I said first, wasn't too many after that. I was 26 years old. I had dated someone for was like 6 months. It started in June. It was over by the end of December. But I really fell super hard for this person because he had seemingly everything that was in common. We were aligned in so many areas in our lives, and I just knew this was a match from heaven, and it just had to be the one. Turns out it wasn't.
I think we can all kind of relate to Adrian, where we've had these very short-lived romances, and we start to really project. This is what my future with this person is going to look like.
That's called limerence.
Okay.
It's the stage of love where you're in the honeymoon stage.
Oh, okay.
You're just filled with all the good hormones and neurotransmitters, and everything seems great, which is also really interesting because that tells you something. If in those first 3 months you're having a lot of issues up and down, you're not even getting the limerence state. Like,
what am I even doing here?
But that's really common, where it's like really overwhelming.
Okay.
Like, but everything lines up.
Yeah. No, it typically is, I think, a really shitty place to be dumped. So, okay. Let's see. And I also want to say I like these people that gave these responses. I love them. And I am so proud and happy that I get to work with them because they're all not only confident, but they're brilliant people. Yeah. And they sat down. They took 5 minutes out of their day to give
Fuck you, Steiner's people.
Yeah, Steiners, you can learn something from these wonderful folks. So this is Carmen's response to the question, tell me about your worst breakup.
So my worst breakup was in 2010. I was a senior in college, and I had been dating this guy for about 5 months. It wasn't really going anywhere. He was always broke. He was always struggling, crashing at my house, not really contributing to the relationship, didn't want to be in a committed relationship, so he was just basically wasting my time. And so I was kind of conflicted, like, do I want to keep waiting until he's ready? Do I want to just cut this off? And I think I just had like a dream, and I looked up the meaning behind the dream, and it was like, you are being taken advantage of and you need to cut the cord. And I was like, bet, let's do it. So of course, him being broke, his phone was disconnected, which would happen like every 2 months. So it was right around Thanksgiving, and in the spirit of, I guess, gratitude for myself and my self-worth, we had planned to have a scheduled like Skype conversation because he was not able to use his phone. So, we got on Skype, and I was like, hey, I had this dream, and I looked up the meaning, and it says that I'm being taken advantage of, and I'm not getting what I deserve, and I think that's about us, so I would like to just cut this. And he was like, what? Like, he was so shocked because I don't think he thought I had the balls to do it. I think he thought he would be the one to break up with me. So, we ended it there. He basically ended the call. Like, it was just like, done. He was cut my ass off. I was just like, okay, no bye, no pleasantries, no sorry, loved you, wish this could have ended better, none of that. That's kind of how it ended.
I love that one because it combines the theme of breakups and dating a loser.
Yeah. And dream interpretation.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot going on.
I like that.
Yeah, Carmen is amazing.
So she knew she could do better.
Exactly. And I'm so glad that within the first 5 months, she came to that realization of, wow, this guy's a loser. He's taking advantage of me.
That's a nice amount of time.
Phone.
Yeah.
These are all red flags that one should pay attention to, even in your early 20s, which she was
I'm
at
very
this
proud
point.
of a 20-something for doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely stayed in relationships with scrubs for longer than that.
Same. I definitely couldn't have done that at 20.
No.
I could barely do it at 38.
Yeah. Very, very mature, Carmen. We're proud of you, girl.
Oh, girl.
All right. So this is Franz. This is our soul man commentator, contributor. Here we go. This is Franz.
Okay, worst breakup. So I'm going to preface this by saying, historically, I've always been, severely codependent. I think it's just, my attachment issues growing up. So, when I found a partner, it's that person became my world, So, my answers are based on that perspective. But because, when I'm in a relationship, that person became, the validating part of my world. And I was always seeking their attention and validation. So, in terms of breakups, I think the worst, I haven't had crazy drama breakups, but I've had crazy drama fights. The most painful breakups were when I was cheated on. Because again, I create this really severe bond with the person. So getting cheated on is just a gut punch. and I just feel like my world is just crashing in, and I feel those abandonment issues come up, and then also get angry. So it's like I'll turn into like a Rihanna song, and I'm breaking dishes up in here all night.
Pop the windows of your car. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely, it's like, throwing phones, breaking dishes. So it's like, that's been like the many years of trauma of like just feeling, unwanted or not getting the love and attention I've been looking for. So I think that's basically the worst type of breakup I've had.
Oh my God, I want to hug Franz. First of all, I love Franz, and it's really sad, and I can relate to that anger. I don't know if you can. Like, I remember this one dude who broke up with me, sending him a text that I hope he perished in a fiery auto wreck. being dumb just brings out the worst in me. I'd like to think I've grown since then, but
the worst in most of us.
Yeah. Have you ever been cheated on?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to think. There's a possibility that I have, but I don't have confirmation.
Okay.
So
did your instincts feel it?
Kind of.
They probably were.
Yeah. Like we always say on the show, trust your gut, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've heard from our three gracious, amazing contributors. Carolyn, I want to talk about the psychology of rejection. First and foremost, what's going on in our brains when someone breaks up with us?
Well, I can sum this up by just saying it sucks.
Yeah.
And that's very clinical, right? But, again, belonging to a family, belonging to a system, and, again, this basis of caring and being, social and communication, or maybe lack thereof, this connection keeps us alive. This makes us not only able to not be in a constant state of fight or flight, but it allows us to feel regulated in our nervous system. And so being rejected or dumped or whatever, synonym you want to call it, it just hurts. And it's an ego pain. And it also, we heard this in some of the recordings, it kills a fantasy. Mm-hmm. We often create that picture, when we talked about that in past episodes, where it makes you sad, not just because what ended, but what could have been, the potential, right? So our brains appear, and we're learning stuff about our brains all the time, but they're very, it's an organic part of our body. It's not a computer. It's gathering information about what's going on around us. And so it appears that brains process relationship breakups in the same region that our brain also feels physical pain. So when you say my heart is broken, you actually are having pain. Yeah. It's not the same as like you cut yourself and you're bleeding, but there is a pain receptor that's being triggered. And romantic rejection doesn't just cause actual physical pain, but it's this signal that your brain kind of can't pay attention to anything else, and they've shown studies where there's a significant impairment even in your IQ function. Wow. During a what we call your executive functions. Well, makes sense. When you're breaking up. And, again, a 40% increase in clinical depression when you're going through a breakup. And there are many evolutionary reasons for this. So the function of pain is to alert a function of pain in our body and in our brain is to alert someone that physical danger or harm so they can take protective action. So in an animal kingdom, one's chance of avoiding predators is so much higher when they're part of a group versus if they're alone. So any social rejection is an actual physical threat in a herd, that right? Makes sense. And so this was how our early ancestors survived. So any rejection is basically like death. And that's an evolutionary thing that just kind of hasn't weaned out of us. It's not true. You're not going to die because someone broke up with you. But tell that to my high school 15-year-old self who like wasn't going to go to prom now because I wasn't thinking like, well, I'm a girl and like my friends will dance in a circle, which is what we did. So that's how, in this case, it's partially helps you explain why it's so many people it's difficult to let go and move on. As we often will say, you got to move on. Researcher Ed Smith, a cognitive neuroscience at Columbia University, and his colleagues put out this research study to look at MRI brain scans of college students. And they gave us this clue about the region of the brain. It's your insula and anterior cingulate cortex. And we'll talk about this again when we talk about addiction. So I want you to remember that. That's what's associated with that pain experience you're feeling. So when they looked at MRI scans, the same areas that lit up in participants when they showed them, or if they gave them a painful experience, like a tactile experience, that same exact spot in their brain lit up on the MRI when they had to look at pictures of ex-partners.
Oh, interesting.
Which is fascinating, right? Like that brain is like, oh, that person hurt me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they looked at a picture of a friend, they, felt good.
Yeah.
Hot probe in my arm. I feel bad. Then they show them the same picture and they're still feeling good. But then they show them the X and they have this pain light up. So we can say it's accurate, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you're physically in pain and you're not okay. And your brain also, I read a study once where it's like your brain kind of doesn't understand. It's like, wait, this is the kind of pain I feel when there's an injury.
Yes.
So am I sick?
Yeah.
Like that's why your immune function goes down. Your body's like, wait, something's going on, but there's nothing.
Well, the brain's
physical.
so powerful.
Yes.
And people, if they tell themselves something, it manifests itself physiologically.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating to me. The power of the brain and the mind is almost limitless.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Which is cool. It's
very cool, but it has the potential to harm you.
Absolutely.
Tremendously.
Yes. Many people.
It's interesting when I think about pain now, the worst pain that I had gone through prior to losing somebody that I really loved to death was a breakup. But then my perspective completely changed once I lost a good friend to death. And I was like, oh, this is real. This is, I mean, not that the other isn't real.
Well, the connection with grief and loss is though.
Yeah.
And if you don't have, and I think this is why breakups are particularly devastating for people who are younger, is, now if someone breaks up with me, obviously I'd be devastated, but I can go, but you're gonna be okay.
Right.
You've had this happen before.
Right.
Hopefully you'll meet someone else, you know, whatever. But when you're young and then you're watching everyone else around you, and we'll get into that later too, but it absolutely the same symptoms that we see in prolonged grief or clinical depression, insomnia, immune dysfunction, intrusive thoughts, loss of community, loss of identity.
Yeah.
Those all tap in.
Well, now that I'm really bummed out, we're going to move on to...
Well, and not everyone
it all back.
Some people get pissed off, angry.
Which is fun. Usually,
that's when I feel better.
It's like stages of grief.
Yes.
I will start with, complete and utter depression, the inability to eat, and then I'm like, let's put on some Slayer and get a bat, go fuck this motherfucker's car up. No, I'm kidding. I never actually did that. In my head, I did that. I wanted to go waiting to exhale and just light his car on fire and all this shit.
I'd be down with it.
Yeah. All right. So everything you said made a lot of sense. So the second question that we asked folks is how they felt when they got dumped. And people at Steiner's just didn't fucking get this.
No one ever understands how they
Even when we explained, we want to know physically how you felt.
Yeah.
Did it feel like there was a vice grip around your heart? Did you feel like you were going to vomit? Were you starving or at least
appetite something
or at least quelling your grief with spoonfuls of peanut butter. Like, what were you doing? Nobody could answer that. They all wanted to talk about what they thought.
Yes.
None of them responded with how they felt. But the people I work with, my friends at work, they're smart and they knew how to answer this question.
They've been in therapy, I think.
They're my age too. Although I think the people at the bar were our age or older that we were talking to, so that's fascinating.
Do you think they were a little disconnected from their bodies, though?
I think they were very disconnected from their bodies, and I think that their answers to me really demonstrated that so many people don't make that connection between mind and body.
No.
The people I work with, because everybody that I've worked with has worked in the community.
Same.
And many of them have experienced trauma personally.
Yes.
And they've worked with people who have experienced severe trauma. So they know how to have those dialogues or that conversation about what's going on in your body.
They wish they couldn't feel what was going on in their body.
Yes. This is why we all get along so well at work. We're all a bunch of traumatized people who know how to help people because of that trauma. Anyway, I digress, kind of. So we're going to listen to Adrian's answer to how she felt in her body.
So this breakup...
Oh, no, not the second breakup. How you felt.
How I felt about the breakup was that I literally felt a pain in my heart because I was truly brokenhearted because I had set everything in my mind as if this was the one and totally was not the one. But yeah, it was took me a long time to get over that one.
Just hearing that, because I think it's because I truly love her. She's like this incredible Libra spirit. She's just such a warm, loving individual. And once, if you're interviewing people you know, and they're talking about people hurting them, you want to quite literally, or maybe figuratively, because I'm not a violent person, but you want to hurt that person. And so it's actually painful to hear their recollections of being
Welcome
in
to my
pain.
world.
Yeah, I know, right? This is all day, every day for you. This is why I don't misdirect service.
I get paid. That's why I need $200 facials, dude.
This is true. Yeah, no, that's cathartic. I get it. Let's hear what Carmen has to say.
How I felt after the breakup was, I think I definitely felt like sad and just down physically. I was just like, I just wanted to sleep all day. I think it felt like I had wasted my time. And so I just was like over it. I just didn't really want to do anything for a few days. But then I think there was this like energy that I got from it in the end. I was like, oh, okay, I'm ready to put myself out there again. I'm ready to be single. I'm ready to not be attached to some broke boy and, be fine being myself, being by myself. So, yeah, I was like slump, for a few days. And then after that, I kind of found my energy again. But yeah, typically with breakups, I feel just like broken, and then I get into this like revenge mode, and I'm like working out, I'm going to the gym twice a day, I'm eating right, I'm looking good, I'm like walking with my head up high. Like if he sees me in the streets, I want him to see me happy. And so I wish I just operated like that on a normal, but that's what happens after my breakup.
I love it. A nice, confident response.
That's a lot of people. Usually the duration after breakup, I think, varies, but I think most people would have that. Like, you kind of get that second win.
Eventually.
Where you're like, fuck this, I'm going to go out and get mine. And then you slump again because you're like, oh shit, it's shitty out there.
Right. No, that's the thing. You're like, oh, my first date after I got, went through a bad breakup, and you're like, I miss that person.
And that's when you text them.
Yeah. Drunken sad text. But, oh,
not that I ever did that.
No.
Yes, I did that all the time.
We've all done it. Let's see what Franz has to say.
How it felt. So, as I mentioned earlier, it felt like a gut punch. Just like it initially comes on as just like a shock, and I'm depressed, I'm angry, I feel less than, unworthy, because I'll internalize a lot of that pain. Like mentally, it's like I can't focus, I can't fall asleep, and I'm just having these constant ruminating thoughts about the relationship or that person or how I can fix it and how I can change things or what went wrong. So it's just like all these like unhealthy thoughts will run through my head. In terms of body, it's like just the constant butterflies and not being inside my body. I can't. It's so hard to eat, and I have to force myself, or protein shakes. I'll probably when I did smoke, I would chain smoke. When I was in active addiction, I'd get high or drunk. So yeah, I just my world was falling apart, and I was letting my body fall apart. Is where that is.
Oh, I can relate to that so hard. That was me every time I went through a bad breakup.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat, and all I wanted to do was be around people, and usually that was in a party environment.
Interesting.
I wanted to be out. I wanted to be busy.
I'm the opposite.
Constantly. Oh, yeah. You like to withdraw from the world.
I go... And it's interesting because it's like that, you go into that, like, I need a B.
Yeah.
And this kind of protect my vital organs.
You go into a cocoon.
Yeah. And I think those are the two ways that people, get, how do we experience fear? Because the pain is also linked so much to fear.
That makes sense.
And so you're going in like, woo!
Yeah.
Come fucking get me.
Come at me, fear.
Yeah. And I'm like, no! Let me stay in bed and watch Golden Girls or Frasier. It had to be like even and no light, like full.
Oh,
depressed.
wow.
Like it had to be shows even with like a soft cadence to them.
Yeah.
Very
wow.
Very, very Yeah.
I did not like to be alone with my thoughts. I had to be occupied constantly, and it wasn't healthy. I was doing a lot of what Franz was doing, which was partying and drinking excessively and doing drugs and just, trying to get out of my body.
Stress-induced impaired coping.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Anxiety.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. So I know when I've gone through breakups, it literally feels like my heart is breaking into a million pieces. What the fuck is going on there?
Well, a few things I want to say before, and we mentioned this a little bit, but before we talk about specifically this process, it's really multifaceted. Even you and I say, well, I do this. Do not tell someone what they should do.
Right.
And like for someone like me who, yes, I do need to kind of cocoon. No, I shouldn't do that for 2 weeks. And you're usually the friend who's like, all right, bitch, come on, let's go.
I don't let you.
We're getting out. But, again, it's like there's so many intersectionalities. I'm just thinking of a few. And again, if I'm leaving something out, please educate me. But not just the spectrum of the breakup, but the frequency, the duration, the intensity of your feelings, the emotions that are all unique, your social support, who you have around you impacts how this is all going to go. I also absolutely think the time in your life this happens, your age. I definitely think how your gender expression is. If you're a guy, if you're a typical male, people might idealize some way that you're supposed to socially behave.
Well, that's what that guy said to us at the bar at Steiner's. He was like, I grew up in Wyoming. I was conditioned, not to cry, not to show emotion.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I think definitely socioeconomic status.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool that I could call my bosses and be like, I got dumped. And they'd be like, don't come to work. Take a sick day.
No, my bosses were like, are you coming in? What's going on?
I worked in nonprofits. No one cared.
Like, oh, your grandpa died? Okay, cool. Are you coming in? Like,
yeah. Well, and again, it's so your socioeconomic status, and I think also race and religion make a big impact into and family, how that happens. So as we talk about this, if there's something we are forgetting, please let us know. But, again, at some point in our lives, and you and I, we're sitting here and we're both feeling compassion.
Yeah.
You can't, almost every one of us will have a broken heart at some point in our life. This is a universal human experience at some point in your lifespan. And I remember my therapist told me that this experience of loss is understood by most humans in a way that, again, sorry, Jeffrey Dahmer's not going to understand.
Right.
Most of us, if you say, someone died, or I've lost someone, or I've gotten broken up with, people will have the same response, which is, oh, I'm sorry.
It's relatable.
Yes, absolutely. And so most people can at least attach to the idea that you are either having a broken heart or sad, or on the reverse, you're ready to party. Yeah. So either way, it can be a shock into this new reality that now exists. And your brain, like I said, is trying to kind of make sense of this reality in this very complex way that you're dealing with it.
Yeah.
And, I can repeat messages over and over to myself based on the past and how I view the world. And this is often where processing comes in. And however you feel at that time is also going to dictate likely how you're going to process that. So, again, imagine how different things would be if we paid more attention to all the unique experiences that we all feel, not just a breakup. Sorry, I have to get on my soapbox about that. Yeah. So, okay, Jen, true or false? The same mechanisms in the brain that light up, I already told you the answer actually, when addicts are going through withdrawal gets activated when we are going through a breakup. True or false?
I'm going to say true.
Yes. Very good. So let me repeat that. The same mechanisms that act up in a brain of an addict when they're going through withdrawal also light up when we are going through a breakup. It is a withdrawal of love, also known as connection, however intimate.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's the second grader as a crush or you're 50 and your partner just left you.
Yeah, that's why I hate when people who are older, like to a teenager, for instance, just dismiss, oh, you're young, get over it. It's like, they have feelings.
Yes.
And, 200 years ago at 15, you were getting married and having babies, and that was socially acceptable. And now we're like, get over it.
I completely agree. And I thank you for saying that. And I think even in the healthcare system, we don't pay attention to that. When you look at what the clinical depression that comes on with this, do not minimize this. You do not want to fuck around with
No, absolutely not.
So I love whenever a client, first of all, most of my practice is people in either relationships they need to break up with or ones that they're already broken up with.
Hey, that's always the time I ran back to therapy. I've been dumped.
Exactly. I do get, and I love them when they come back, and I will always sit there with you because I fucking did that shit too.
Open
and
door
no,
policy.
your therapist will listen to you, and we are not mad at you. You're not annoying us.
Yeah.
But I tell all my clients to watch this TED Talk by Guy Winch. So Winch presents a very compassionate way of looking at the breakup and heartbreak, and he talks about this withdrawal process, and it becomes obsessive. And so often you talked about this in a lot of the interviews, talked about this, we cannot stop thinking about this person.
Yeah.
We want to know why. We want a reason. We try to cope, we try and use emotional resources and skills, and they don't work.
No.
They don't work. And you're like, what the fuck?
Because you can't control it. Somebody else is doing something to you.
Yes. And as much as you want to even stop thinking about the person, it ends up coming back in, and you basically can't trust or rely on your instincts. And so your mind is not only fucking with you, it's fucking with your nervous system.
Oh, interesting.
And so Winch says, here's his quote, "Heartbreak causes such dramatic emotional pain. Our mind tells us that the cause must be equally dramatic. We come up with theories. We go down rabbit holes. We have to figure out what happened and why and search every detail of our memory. And we commit to this insidious search, sometimes for years."
Oh, God.
That is absolutely true.
Well, that's a very human trait. We are investigators. We are curious by nature. And sometimes we don't know when it's deleterious to us to stop. Like, all right, cool. We don't have to.
Well, what can you do?
There's nothing you can do. Yes. Somebody else has made a decision. You can't change that decision. And that's that.
Yeah.
And I think people have such a difficult time with that, especially if you, like me, you're a control freak. Like, wait,
well, your mind. So I just love how he talks about that. Because again, it's like, even if I start thinking about past breakups, I'll start getting pissed off again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or like that, so our minds get very skewed and very unreliable because our nervous system is trying to help us survive and avoid pain in the short term. The only way it knows how from an evolutionary standpoint. Mm-hmm. So I always talk about the rule of fives with my client. Uh-huh. Like, okay, is this going to bother you 5 minutes from now? 5 hours from now, 5 weeks from now, 5 months from now, 5 years from now.
That's a good way to look at it.
And most people, because you're not thinking about the future, you're thinking about the lost future. Well, we were going to get married and we were going to have kids. I'm like, were you?
Yeah.
But also I'm like, well, is this going to matter to you in 5 years? Mm-hmm. Well, and especially with younger kids where it's like, oh, you're 15 now. Okay, in 5 years, you're going to be 20. You think you're still going to be caring about, little, Bobby Dumbfuck? Probably not.
No, it's super true. And it's hard when you're in the moment, when you're, as I was 15 and Dave does not want you back. Your high school boyfriend does not want you back. It's, I am in this moment right now. Mm-hmm. And you could never imagine that 10 years later, you would be looking back thinking, oh, that was good for my growth.
Yes.
And, hindsight's 20/20. And
and it's the same thing also, with this idea that like you have to experience pain at a young age.
Yeah.
And you have to build character around, hey, some things don't work out.
Right.
You don't get your way all the time.
Right.
But it's this idea that person, and this goes into, we talk a lot about codependency. Well, they chose me.
Yeah.
And so that must mean something. If this person, this was a lot of my shit, this person who I idealized and I thought was amazing, if they like me, then that must mean I'm amazing.
And if they leave me, that must mean I'm trash.
They don't like me anymore. Yeah. And so that's the cycle that goes through.
Well, your value, you inextricably link it to another person. And I think that's what's so brilliant about what both Adrienne and Carmen were saying. Like, no. Like, I realized I was better off without these people. Like, I was going to be fine.
They had some perspective.
They had great perspective.
Well, and that's the thing. When an addict is detoxing, they're not getting the stimulus in that opioid pleasure center of your brain, in the receptors, which are all over our body, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when either the withdrawal will happen or you have to get your fix.
Yeah.
But how do you get your fix when it's a person? Well, if you're me, you stalk them mercilessly on social media.
Or you find somebody else to replace them immediately. And you're going from one relationship to the next.
Or you buy things.
Yes. That's what I always did.
Get girls, what do we do? We get banged.
I got some shoes. I never look good with bangs. There was always shoes and shit. Shoes and weed.
We basically feed a sort of, if we can't get the physical addiction, we're going to get a visual.
That's
or
right.
listen to messages. We'll look through old pictures.
Yes.
It's like despair porn.
Yeah. It's despair porn. That is really a good way to look at it.
You know, in the Guy Winch says, you know, so most of us experience this compelling urge to connect again. And so we feed that addiction in the absence of that person. And we actually, again, feed the addiction, we complicate our recovery, and we deepen our emotional pain. It never, ever works. And I
Clean break.
This is when you read your friends as being mad at you.
Yeah.
Or you read your therapist as being mad at you.
Everybody's out to get me.
It's not that. It's that we're watching you basically smoke heroin. Can you smoke heroin?
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay.
I think. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's one drug I've never messed
slept with heroin.
One of the few.
Yeah.
That and crack. Yeah.
You know, but if someone's watching you do the very thing that hurts you, they're going to get frustrated.
Yeah.
And I think that that's then when, and I've certainly done this, where people have been frustrated with me and I get mad at them.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah.
We've all been in that situation. So, all right. So the last question that we asked folks was their best advice for getting over a breakup. So we're going to start with our friend Adrian again. What does Adrian have to say?
My best advice, and granted, I was 26 then, I'm not 26 now, but I would say what I have learned, and even coming through that particular breakup, because it adjusted how I thought about relationships, men, and how I interface with them. And what I learned is to first learn how to love me, value me, and understand the value of me. And in doing so, also, it's just not that important. And no one should mean that much to where my whole world is destroyed because they decide, or it is decided, we should not be together. So I no longer have that same high level of value as I thought in the person, not as much as I have in myself now, and also being able to recognize what's good for me and what's not, no matter how bad I think I want it.
Oh, such good perspective.
She's amazing.
She's one of my favorite people on the face of the planet. But yeah, I mean, that's when we link our value to another person, even in a healthy relationship, unless it's a parent-child relationship. Like, I know I have value as a parent. It's very important for me to be somebody's mother.
But you still have a sense of self beyond that.
I am still an individual.
That is the priority.
Yes. I always say, like, me being happy, me being content means that my child gets a better version of me. So I could never ignore myself. I could never ignore the relationship that I have with my husband. That is first and foremost the most important relationship dynamic in our family, because happiness flows from that. But
well, Jen, most couples therapists and psychologists would agree with you that when parents and families come in, they often are over prioritizing their children or one relationship, and they go last.
Yep.
And you're not serving your partner.
Yep.
You're not serving anyone around you when you do not prioritize yourself.
That's
that
right.
is not selfish.
Yeah. Go on some date nights, couples with children. All right, let's see what Carmen has to say here.
How I felt after the breakup was, I think I definitely felt like...
Sorry, that's the wrong one. Here you go, Carmen.
Best advice for getting over a breakup for me would be to definitely take the time to yourself, maybe talk it out with some friends, and then also maybe do some like journaling, some, getting down your thoughts and your feelings, getting it out, having some type of outlet. Because for me, I think with breakups, I feel like a level of shame and a level of disappointment. And I feel like, damn, like, why did I put myself through that? It's really all about like how bad I feel about that breakup and just really about wasting my time. So for me, it really helped to like find an outlet and share how I felt. And then obviously find a hobby. Definitely find a hobby and keep yourself busy. So whenever you start thinking about that person, do that hobby or dedicate some time so that you don't have the time to really think about them. And eventually you'll look up and you'll be like, damn, I have a really full life outside of this breakup and outside of that relationship, and I can move on and be fine by myself.
Carmen does not like her time wasted. Do not play with Carmen's time. Come comes across in all of her responses. But it's true. And I think that making that shift, that mental shift from this was a waste of time to no, this was a valuable use of my time, if not just for the learning experience and the growth that comes from, and I think that's the value of being a little bit older, right? We're in our 40s. And as much as these situations sucked, I think now we're in a place where we can see where we gained growth and perspective.
Well, and it's interesting because in my practice and in my own experience, most people use time the other way.
Yeah.
We've been together so long. It's like, oh, so you've already wasted 5 years? Don't waste 5 more? And I'll even say, let's write a letter to yourself a month from now, 3 months from now.
Yeah.
And let's open and see if you're still with him 3 months from now, the way you're feeling now. And that usually when you can point out that timeline, because I feel most people do that, but we've been together so long. So
doesn't matter. It also doesn't matter if you have children.
No.
And that's the thing. It doesn't matter how long you've been together. It doesn't matter how many assets you have together. It doesn't matter how many children you have together. If you are unhappy, you are doing a disservice to your children. Because so many people, I'm sure you've heard this come up so many times in your practice. Oh, we're staying together for the kids.
Ooh. I have a question, though.
Yeah.
Is a breakup harder when it's in a divorce form? Is that different, you think?
Well, I've been through it. We didn't have kids, so I've been married once before. Surprise, audience.
It's not a breakup. That's a very different...
It was still a breakup. I would still define it as a breakup. Okay. And in that case, I was the one that did the breaking up. I think it was easier than some divorces because we didn't have children. I think
but you lived together.
I think when you live together.
And you've often lived with guys.
I have. Which I habitated a bunch.
Do you think that makes it harder?
I mean, a little bit, but that's more just... logistical. There are
in San Francisco during the pandemic, so many couples were like, I don't want to be with you. Fucking rent. Where am I going to go?
My first husband and I broke up when you could still afford an apartment in San Francisco as a lot, almost 15 years ago. But, I think having kids complicates things.
Absolutely.
It should never prevent you from moving forward because I think we as parents are demonstrating or modeling for our kids what relationships look like.
No pressure.
Right. Yeah. Don't fuck this up. And I think my husband and I are doing a really good job of that because we're very much in love. We get along very well and we're fortunate.
Yeah.
I know that's not the situation with a lot of
no, it's not.
Parents, married parents. But I just think that if you are unhappy, there shouldn't ever be a reason why you stay with somebody. Mm-hmm. Your happiness is paramount. As far as we know, you only get one life.
Yes.
Why do you want to spend it unhappy?
Because we don't think about the fact that we only get one life.
We don't. Or we're scared.
Yes.
We're scared. We're habituated to that person.
Yes.
And as unhappy as we are, they are a constant. And we as human beings, as you know, as a therapist, we love consistency.
Even if it's toxic.
And structure. Yeah, even if it sucks. So I think that's a big...
Some of us.
Yeah.
Other people really don't. Like Carmen looks like doesn't put up with it.
Yeah.
And I really envy that. I think in my later years, Jesus Christ, I'm not it's 90. But it's like later on I can kind of date a guy and go, hey, I like you.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get feelings.
Yeah.
What are you up for?
Where do you stand? Yeah.
And if you don't, that's fine.
Yeah.
But let's have that kind of difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the healthiest endings where I was still upset, but I was like, but they were honest and we're still quite good friends.
And you had that conversation before it got deeper.
Yes.
And there was no ambiguity.
No. And
because there's no time to play.
Honest.
Yeah. That's true.
Tom, if you're listening, that's you.
Yeah. Tom, you're awesome. Let's talk about metal. Yeah. You were honest, and honesty is always appreciated.
Absolutely.
So let's see what Franz has to say.
So how to get over a breakup? For me, I statements at its core, I needed to figure out why I had such a severe attachment to my partner, which led to making breakups really devastating for me. And I had to figure out what the source is and then figure out like healthy ways to build relationships and to cope with the ending of a relationship. For me, what works is like therapy, group therapy. I'm dual diagnosed, so I have to take my psych meds. I have to find my tribe. I have to find people that I can trust and that I can be authentic with and just, talk about my feelings. And someone who's able to support and compassionately listen, provide advice if I do ask for it, but a lot of times it's just having that other person there just to be present, and just being able to be vulnerable and just feel my feelings. In terms of I'll go into like a depressive episode and I have to do stuff like go out in the sun. It's a natural antidepressant, and so just going for a walk or just being out in the sun or out in nature usually helps to restore some balance. Also have some form of exercise. It could be walking, the gym, yoga. For me, it's karate. I think that when I'm going into my depression, it's just I'm so stuck in my head. So doing those physical things bring me back into my body and it restores some balance. You also need to socialize. Isolation is just this demon that just keeps you in the house and just sulking. And so I have to just reach out to friends and family. And a lot of times, because I get so codependent, it's I cut all those people out. So it's reconnecting is really important. Also volunteering has also helped, being of service to other people. It's if you want to gain self-esteem, you do esteemable acts. And so for me, it, just volunteering, doing something for other people, it just makes you feel good. It's releasing those endorphins. And so that's always been successful for me. I'm sober, so I do my 12-step stuff. I go to AA and CMA, so going to meetings and fellowshipping. If I have to do some step work around the breakup and, just game plan it so I can successfully recover from the breakup. Watching comedy specials, eating delicious food. I love to play video games. Making sure you get enough sleep and drink water, all those sort of things. It's it takes work, and you just, it's so easy to get stuck in the depression. And I just have to be really proactive, countering that with good things.
Yep. I love that response. It's so healthy. Mm-hmm. And it's been quite some time since somebody's broken up with me. And what really pains me to know if I'm the survivor, it won't be a breakup. It'll be my husband's passing.
God damn it.
I know, it's dark as fuck.
Why'd you say that?
But it's true. We're very happy.
I'm gonna cry.
We're not gonna go anywhere.
I think about that all the time. I think about Mario dying.
Right. Everything ends. And
everything yes. Thank you for saying that.
And
nothing's permanent.
Nothing is permanent. And
except death and taxes.
Exactly. And death is what we're talking about.
Thanks, so Franklin.
Thinking about that and knowing that regardless of whether or not it's a breakup or the death of a partner, all of this advice is salient.
Yes.
Walking, sunshine,
move,
exercise,
nature,
laughing,
social,
friends,
play.
It's all a way to
regulate
get
your
through
body,
sadness,
yes.
and regulate your body.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's all sadness and it's all grief and it's all loss in varying degrees. Yeah. So, I think hopefully my husband outlives me because I
know. I told Mario he has to die first. I have to die first. I don't have to be alone.
Oh my God, this got dark. We really have gone down a dark path. Carolyn, talk to me about advice for getting over breakups.
Well, again, we're kind of saying that this, people change. They do. And they're fucking allowed to.
Yeah.
People are allowed to not like you.
Absolutely.
Too, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're allowed to just change their mind. And you are too. So people leave us, and this is a huge consequence and outcome of falling in love. It's a risk. Heartbreak, feeling alone, being in pain. You, like your friends from work said, you have to fight.
Yeah.
You have to get some grit and some fucking grace.
Yeah.
And you have to get real with yourself. And by real, I mean honest, like your life depends on it.
Yeah.
And honest, like a fucking mirror.
Yeah.
You have to identify the voids that this person has left and fill them.
And are they real voids?
You're feeling like you're not getting snuggles? Go get a massage.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like you need more human contact, go volunteer. I tell everyone, go volunteer. Go do something good. You want to feel good about yourself? Go do something good.
Totally.
And so focusing on your future self and also too, look at some of the mistakes that were made. And if they set you back, think about them.
Yeah.
Look for patterns. Stop texting them. Stop looking at photos. Stop smelling their shirt that you store from
yourself.
them. Or stop, Carolyn, buying, these are all things I did. Stop buying their cologne and spraying your body with it. Stop thinking about that. Stop listening to your song. Stop stalking them or bumping into them in places. I totally would do that. Stop looking at social media or their friends or hanging out still with their grandma, hoping that you could drop lines. These are all things I did. Stop.
Oh, no.
Process away. I'm not saying don't process, but also be really cautious about how you process. Because think of that like you're carrying a backpack that has tons of weights in it. Every time you retell your story, one, you're ingraining that narrative. And two, you have to then put it all back. Yeah. So if you're telling 10 people, that means you're re-traumatizing yourself. And then you have to put all that back. And now people are going to ask you about it. So I'm not saying don't vent, but be careful who you vent with, and also don't overwhelm your friends. Go to see a professional. And also don't ask your friends if they're also instigating the text.
Well, you need somebody completely, totally unbiased.
Yes.
A professional.
And, again, stop having hope. Yeah. This was what I heard a lot in the conversations I had with people who also would
hope is dead.
Well, but they would all, and again, younger people are like, well, when they see me next summer, when they do this, don't have hope.
Oh, I always had hope. It was so stupid.
Well, and the research for survivors who are in kidnapping or really intense traumatic situations is people often say, oh, well, they must have not lost hope. Most people would say hope is something that if I hoped, I wouldn't live for the next day. I had to just be in the moment.
Yeah.
So don't get held hostage. And again, I don't mean to call you a victim, but don't get held in that mindset.
Yeah.
And don't get held in your nervous system.
Yeah.
And remember actually who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you? Talk about this. Who are you outside of this person? You were fine before them,
right?
You'll be fine after. Yep. They aren't perfect, and you probably aren't either.
Who you are.
So don't try and create this like wonderful image that they were perfect and everything was great.
Yeah,
I love to do something called an honorable closure, where you talk about 4 parts: the good things, the things that forever impacted, like what are you grateful for about this person?
Yeah.
How did they challenge you? How did this relationship push you to your limits? What were some of the really hard moments?
Yeah.
Like kind of your shit list, right?
Yep.
What were the things that now you will forever be impacted? All of my exes often left me with great music.
That's very true.
And, also then, what do you need to forgive them for? What do you need to forgive yourself for? And I remember when I went and heard Alice Walker talk, she said her and her ex did this together.
Oh, wow.
That's really cool if you have a really progressive person. Yes, because then you actually do get true closure, but you don't actually need someone. I tell my clients to do that and literally write a shit list of all the things they hated about that person and then go to a dog park and pick up shit with it.
There you go.
So when they start thinking about them again, they remember the shit list.
Yes, I think that's really important because when we go through a breakup, we tend to focus on all the good stuff and we push the bad moments to the side.
Because we don't want to feel pain.
No, of course not. Well, we don't want to feel any more pain than we're already feeling. And we want to continue to idealize that person and tell ourselves this narrative that, oh, this was the right person for me. And there's no one else that's going to be able to fill this person's shoes, which is bullshit.
Yeah. There's so many people.
There are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of cool people out there. There are also a lot of shitheads, but there are a lot of cool people out there, 3 of whom we interviewed and were kind enough to give us their sentiments and contribute to this episode. So thank you guys. I love you. We hope our listeners enjoyed. If you did enjoy us, if you're continuing to enjoy us on a regular basis, please just give us 5 stars.
And a review.
Don't make me beg for stars like I'm an urchin in a Dickens novel. Please, sir, may I have 5 stars? It takes nothing to give us 5 stars. I'm not even asking you to write a goddamn review. Just click 5 stars on Apple. All right? We love you all. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next week.
Yay.
Bye.